It should come as no great surprise. It comes as no great surprise to me that David Neal is now speaking out further about the failures in the Home Office. David Neal is the person who spoke out about the private jets coming into the country, bringing people from other countries who aren't fully documented, who don't have visas or probably even passports, but who have the money to get hold of a private jet and jet in and secretly go about. So he he was sacked within days of the point at which his tenure would have stopped. He was sacked to make a point, and what he now says is that the Home Office is utterly incompetent. That people don't have radios, people don't have the right equipment to do the job, and the Home Office just blithely gets on with its thing, and it's been headed by a series of aggressive ministers who think that their rhetoric is more important than the reality, and think that by attacking a few individuals, they can sort out the problem of the Home Office. The Home Office is indolent, it's not doing its job, and it's clearly riddled with incompetence as well as laziness. Before I go on, can I urge you to take a look at my new Etsy store with original designs at the moment on mugs by me. So, for example, there's a Jacob Rees mug, and a Give Harry a Hug mug, and these mugs are uniquely designed. We will have other merchandise as well. You'll find a link in the description and in my YouTube bio. So please check this out and get a mug and give Harry a hug. And meanwhile, there will be a mug. I promise you there will be a Home Office mug or a number of Home Office mugs on the way. I think I hardly need to say there's a Home Office mug. I think he's called James Cleverly, isn't he? Why do I want to call him Jason? I have no idea. There's nothing sort of Jason Stratham about James Cleverly, is there? Or is there? The transporter, the doors in and out of the top office of the Home Office, the doors in and out of the Home Office ministers seem to be revolving. Priti Patel, Suella Braverman, James Cleverly. Too many Home Office ministers to give the impression that this is a department that's really working effectively. And even if the Home Office turns around and says a programme of work is already underway to reform and strengthen border forces' capabilities, it acknowledges, does it not, in that one sentence, that the thing is failing at the moment. So David Neal is quite right to flag this up. As I say, he's the person who flagged up the security on private jets. And he'd been writing reports, 15 of which were withheld from publication by the Home Office, dating back 18 months. It's madness. 13 of these have now been put online since his sacking. And he's now given an interview on the Today podcast and said that he regularly found failings with the immigration system, talking about a cock-up rather than a conspiracy. And too few officials at the Home Office were prepared to take responsibility. So then it becomes a conspiracy to cover up the cock-up. This is just poor Home Office activity. Well, the other poor Home Office activity is, of course, the sheer amount of people kept in hotels in migration limbo. I think there's a culture, he says, within the Home Office that means that they, the immigration officials, are blaming up to ministers. Well, the blame goes everywhere in the Home Office, I would have thought. And there's an idea that beastly Home Secretaries are tying their hands. You can't get away with that in the army, he says. You don't complain about the situation. You deal with the world as it is, not as you hope it to be. Exactly. You play the hand you've been dealt. You don't whine about all the things that have gone wrong in the past. You deal with the reality. So in the same way as Brexit, we may not like Brexit. I don't like Brexit. But you deal with the reality. There's no going back. You have to make it work. And that is why Theresa May was so utterly useless as Prime Minister. That is why, of course, she was utterly useless as the Home Office Minister. And indeed, the rot, I think, starts with her very, very long tenure in the Home Office and under David Cameron, and her invocation of the hostile environment, and everything then moves on from there. The hostile environment was a cover-up for laziness and senior officials who don't get it. It comes down to this challenge in the Home Office of policy people versus operational people, and this doesn't cost a lot. We're not talking about sort of super post-grads here. We're talking about normal people who have experience of delivery. It goes right to the top. If you're going to be responsible for a department, if you're going to be accountable for the outputs of your department, then clearly it goes up to the permanent secretary. And this is border force, this is passport control, this is passport delivery. I recently tried to get my passport renewed. It was one of the most unpleasant experiences, and I called the Home Office number 2 or 3 times, I think, and nothing that I'd said was then actioned. Nothing. You think, what's the point of holding on until you're transferred to somebody who sweet talks you for a lengthy period of time and nothing happens? Nothing happens because the system is chaotic and because nobody takes proper responsibility. And it's all, of course, been farmed out to other private companies, and that may be part of the problem as well. It must be a frustrating experience for anybody who's used to an organisation that works effectively. The army works relatively efficiently. The Home Office does not. The police do not. Border control does not. And I think increasingly we can look at government and we can say, does that work? No, it doesn't. And there's a common denominator running through this of a system which thinks that control or barking slogans, rhetoric, is a substitute for reality. There is no substitute for hard work. And it's very good to see that Neal is calling out the Home Office as dysfunctional, as incompetent, as in need of reform. And one of Rishi Sunak's original 10 points was to have fundamental reform of the border force. He should have had fundamental reform of the entire Home Office.